Good afternoon, 6-4 parents. Mr. Hagedorn here with our weekly update. We are still in need of tissues. We had a couple kids bring them in this week, so we do appreciate those of you who sent them in. But this time of year, kids go through them so quick. So we are still desperately in need for tissues. If you could send those in, we would greatly appreciate it. Right? In Math 6 this week, we took our quiz on Wednesday about our finding surface area. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. So then we moved on to decimals. So we've been talking about adding and subtracting decimals. We will continue to do that on Monday. And then we're going to move on to multiplying decimals for the rest of next week. And we will continue with decimals up until we track out. All right, Math 6 Plus, we are just starting to finish up our fractions unit. We've started talking about, we're going to start talking a lot more about Monday about finding the volume of a shape using non-unit cubes. So figuring out like how many cubes with a side length of 1/4 fit into some rectangular prism, things like that. All right, we'll then take our quiz on Wednesday on fractions, and then we will start our decimals unit in 6 Plus next Thursday. Again, talking about adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. All right, have a great weekend. We will see you guys on Monday.
All right, 6-4 families, 2 hats. First one, ELA. It's going to be kind of simple this week for next week. We have read 15 monologues in Good Masters, Sweet Ladies, and that's the amount we're going to read in this book. So like we told you before, we're not reading it cover to cover, and we're going to leave some of those stories out. So after we've read these 15, which ended today, which is the last of our gist and theme documents, next week we're going to be writing an essay. And it's going to be an argumentative essay where the students are going to have to make a claim about 2 of the characters in the book. They're going to look at 2 of the characters. They're going to figure out what adversities these characters had. And then they're going to have to decide for themselves if these adversities are something that people of today still struggle with. So they will be writing an essay based on 2 of the 15 characters that we read. And that's basically what we're going to be doing for the entire week next week. With science, we have moved starting today into our last part of the wave unit. This is the last part of our big unit. Waves and matter are almost a quarter long each. After that, all our units are like 4 to 5 weeks, which are pretty short. But we will be focusing on wave behaviors next week. Students today started making a resource library that we're going to use for a wave book that we're going to be making on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we're going to get into parts and functions of the eye on Thursday and Friday of next week. And just so you know, if you look at my screen here to my that way, I don't know. ELA and science, all my missing work is to do a week from today. I'm not going to be here the last week of track-in. I'm having ACL surgery, which means I need my late work a little bit before the rest of the fellows need their late work. So I have all work due December 8th for both of my classes, ELA and science. All my Canvas assignments have been switched to end on the 8th, which means you can get them in until then. And after that, sorry, I try to give you as much warning as possible. All grades are current and active. All right, after that, I will turn it over to Mr. Hutchison.
All right, friends, let's talk social studies very quickly. So we are in our unit on achievements, and we started it at the beginning of the week. And one of the first things we talked about was writing. And so we've been talking about writing all this week, kind of the development of writing, where it came from, the different forms of writing. We talked about cuneiform, and a few students even got to practice kind of making cuneiform with a stylus and a piece of clay, that kind of thing we were working on. And we've continued that all week. We got one more day with writing where on Monday, students are, and I previewed this today, we're going to talk about the kind of evolution or innovation of the pen. So we're going to start with this, and we've got writing utensils, pens, that will then develop into this, a pen that is a little bit more innovative and possibly easier to use, and then end with this, a fountain pen that would be the more innovative of the 3. So that's what we're going to be playing with a little bit on Monday. And then as we continue on our unit on achievements, we're going to talk about art a little bit. We're going to talk about different forms of ancient art, what we can learn from ancient art. Then we're going to get into architecture and infrastructure towards the end of this unit, as we're starting to learn a little bit about buildings and the kind of cool buildings that were built in the ancient world, and then infrastructure. In other words, how they connected all together to make a city. And we'll use the Romans to help us with that. So that's what we are doing in social studies class. If you have any questions or anything, let us know. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.